I'm Lisa Eaton, the Health Education Supervisor for the Council on Adolescence. Today we're going to be talking about promoting healthy youth behaviors. I specifically am going to talk about the Healthy Youth Act that was passed in 2009 and its impact on teen pregnancy rates in our state and our county. I'll also be talking about the education that we provide through our agency to the students in our community. We hope you enjoy it.
Hello, I'm Robin McGraw, one of the health educators from the Council on Adolescence. I'm so glad you're joining us for this session. I'm going to talk about the history, not just of the state of North Carolina and pregnancy prevention, but of our agency also. And then towards the end, I'm going to also talk about all the other programs that our agency does besides just our in-school programs. Thanks, and thanks for joining us.
I'm Robin McGraw, and I would like to tell you a little bit about who we are as an agency. We are located in Catawba County, North Carolina. Our goal is to empower youth to make healthy life choices and to achieve their full potential. We would like to do this by inspiring them to be physical and emotionally healthy through education, awareness, and advocacy. Our agency was started by a group of homemakers in the health department to help address primarily teenage pregnancy prevention in Catawba County. Now, the agency is also focused on other things by expanding to education with intervention against alcohol and drug use, tobacco use. Those are some of the things that they felt at certain periods in time were very beneficial to youth in our community. Our agency started in 1983 by doing some classes in Hickory High School in the 9th grade in health and PE. It then in 1986 was able to go into all 3 school systems in the 8th grade and do curriculum for postponing sexual activity. And in 1986 also became incorporated. The Council on Adolescence has been influential over the years in helping to pass laws that help to provide safety for our youth in the state of North Carolina. One of those laws was in 1992. The age of consent was raised from 12 years of age to 16 years of age. In 2000, increases charges for adults that provide alcohol to minors. And then due to a motor vehicle accident that happened in Catawba County in 2001, provisional license changes occurred. And most of you that have had a teenager that received a driver's license know what all those provisional license changes have been. It requires them to meet a lot of milestones before they can fully have a license. I bet you're wondering what made a group of homemakers in the health department feel there was a need for teenage pregnancy prevention. And here are some statistics that caused them to think of the things that they could do to help prevent those teen pregnancies. Teens 15 to 19 years old that became pregnant in the state of North Carolina in 1984 was 80 per 1,000. In 1986, it was 95 per 1,000. In our county, Catawba County, 1990 was the highest teen pregnancy rate, and that was 467 girls became pregnant that year in our county. In 2018, the teen pregnancy rate for the state of North Carolina for 15 to 19-year-olds was 18.7 per 1,000. So it dropped dramatically over the years. What happened in those years to cause change to occur? One of the things that occurred was abstinence-based curriculum. That was the 80s and 90s mainly for the state of North Carolina, and part of 2000. if a school system wanted to teach comprehensive education to their students, it had to pass through the school board, and then the teachers were allowed to teach it. In 2009, the Healthy Youth Act was passed, and that gave more school systems the ability to teach that information. And Lisa's going to get into more of what the Healthy Youth Act is, what all it covers, what all has to be taught underneath the Healthy Youth Act for 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. Later on in the slides, she'll talk about that. So that was one of the things that happened. Also in the 80s and 90s, curriculum was met with a lot of adversity. People had different beliefs on what should and should not be taught. So that was one of the things that caused the difference in what is taught today versus what was taught then. And I feel like that has to do with why our statistics are probably different. So as we go through this program, please remember that in 2009, Healthy Youth Act passed. 2010 was when it was implemented in the classrooms in the school systems, or at least in our 3 school systems. Here are some of the state of North Carolina's teen pregnancy rates. I want you to remember in 2009 was when the Healthy Youth Act was passed. It was not implemented in the classroom until 2010, the fall of 2010. But in 2009, our state had 18,142 teen pregnancies. In 2018, we had 8,255 teen pregnancies. So for the last 8 years of these 2 rates, teens have been getting education that wasn't just abstinence-based education. I would like to share Catawba County's teen pregnancy rates with you. I highly suggest that you go on Shift's website and compare your data from 10 years ago to today for your county. It's very interesting to see how that data changes over the years, especially since the Healthy Youth Act took effect in 2010. Our county in 2009 had 297 teen pregnancies. In 2018, we had 109 teen pregnancies, a big difference in a short period of years. When it comes to teen pregnancy prevention, I know that we can look at the rate of teen pregnancy and realize we are making a difference, but there are lots of other ways that we can look at teen pregnancy as making a difference. One is the cost of what teen pregnancy costs the state of North Carolina. In 2010, the cost of teen pregnancy for the state of North Carolina was $325 million that year. In 2015, by the decline in teen pregnancy for the state, our state saved $137 million. And if you think back to the 90s when we talked about how high the stats were for teen pregnancy in the state of North Carolina, that since 1991, the prevention efforts have saved the state of North Carolina taxpayers $7.7 billion. Another way of knowing are we making a difference in the lives of teens in the state of North Carolina is seeing if their behavior actually changes. And one of the great ways of looking at that is the YRBS, the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. I primarily looked this time at the sexual component of it. There's drug, alcohol, tobacco, all types of different things you can look at to see the behavior of teens in the state of North Carolina. But I looked at it mainly to see what had changed over the years, especially since we started doing more reproductive health education. And one of the questions that's on the YRBS is the percentage of high school students that ever had sexual intercourse. 1993, 62% of students said they had. 2009, 52% of students said they had. And in 2019, 41% of students said that they had had sexual intercourse. Another behavior change was had 4 or more partners intercourse. In 1993, 23.5% stated they had had 4 or more partners with sexual intercourse. 2009, it was down to 15.7%. And in 2019, 10.3% of high school students had had 4 or more partners for sexual intercourse. This is a great tool to see that behavior is changing, and not just the drop in rates of pregnancy, but they are actually behaving different. And hopefully that's from education they are receiving.
Hi, this is Lisa Eaton again, and I'm going to spend some time talking with you about the Healthy Youth Act. This was passed in North Carolina in 2009, ultimately to provide parents, students, and schools with greater access to effective sex education. They were surveying parents across North Carolina and found out that 91.8% were in favor of comprehensive sex education within schools. After this legislation was passed, it required schools to begin this education starting in the 2010-11 school year. In the schools, it's officially called reproductive health and safety education. We're going to spend some time over the next couple slides looking exactly what is required to be covered based on this, as well as what impacts, if any, it has had on teen pregnancy rates, both in the state and our county. Okay, so what exactly must be taught through the passing of this Healthy Youth Act? First of all, I want to make sure that we understand that this is education that was required for 7th through 9th grades in North Carolina public schools. As far as the areas that have to be covered, right here you have listed the 4 kind of big headings of what has to be discussed, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about each of these. So, of course, no comprehensive sex education is going to be complete without a discussion of abstinence, and abstinence is a big part of the Healthy Youth Act, although, of course, there is more than that as well. So regarding abstinence, definitely making sure that they understand that it is the expected standard of adolescence for North Carolina, and really going into why is it the expected standard regarding that it reduces teen pregnancy and STIs, which of course can affect them, as well as how it affects the whole community, whether that's through taxes, as well as their future goals may not be reached if these consequences happen. Part of the abstinence discussion also is about the reasons, skills, and strategies that they can use to try to remain abstinent. And then also the benefits of remaining abstinent compared to the possible risks of premarital sex. So that kind of covers the things that must be discussed regarding abstinence as part of this education. The second big part is all about STIs and making sure that they're getting medically accurate information about HIV and STIs. So how those are transmitted is a big part of this. So a discussion of the different types of sex, making sure they understand that not just one type of sex can transmit STIs, but that there's different types and they all have a risk factor there. A discussion of risk reduction of STIs, specifically talking about condoms and the fact that they can reduce the risk specifically of certain STIs. Making sure that students are aware of the local resources that are available to them for both testing and treatment of sexually transmitted infections. And then really going through all of the different STIs that are out there, especially the real common ones, what are their rates of transmission and their effects on the body, whether those are symptoms or long-term effects that certain ones can have. They also state that HPV or the human papillomavirus also must be discussed, including its effects, including cervical cancer is a big thing that they want to make sure is covered in that area of STIs. The third big area includes contraceptive methods, so making sure that the students know about the effectiveness and safety of all FDA-approved birth control methods. So within our programs, we talk about these in both their effective rate in their perfect use, as well as kind of typical use, which can of course include human error, which we know with teenagers is often the case. And then the fourth section is really about other types of sexual offenses, specifically regarding sexual assault and sexual abuse. Trying to have a discussion with students about risk reduction. So what are ways to try to reduce the risk possibly of these types of assaults? Really focusing on building healthy relationships, making sure that they have people that they can go to if they ever are in these situations, making sure they have not only the resources, but also the reporting procedures, like what they can do, who they can go to if they experience either of them. Another discussion point regarding these is kind of common misconceptions about sexual abuse and sexual assault. So making sure that students don't have any, preconceived ideas of, why this has happened or who this happens to, and understanding the importance of telling someone and reporting these types of assaults. In addition to all the information we just discussed that must be included as part of the Healthy Youth Act education, you also have to provide opportunities for parent or guardian and student interaction. So anything that can provide a discussion, things like that. We do this through a parent handout that we send home on our final day with the students, where most of the time the teachers will give the students sometime extra credit if they actually complete it, get it signed by their parent that they did have a discussion. They're normally about the topics we've discussed that week, just to open up hopefully a conversation that's been happening, but maybe one that can start happening more often. But there's different ways that people could make sure this interaction takes place. Obviously, providing factual and accurate information, kind of what we've talked about the whole time, making sure it's medically accurate and factual and not opinion-based. And finally, of course, it has to be objective and based on scientific research. All the things that we've discussed so far have been all science-based, and again, trying to stay away from those things that might be opinion or not scientifically proven. So obviously in the field of prevention, teen pregnancy prevention, whatever type of prevention, when things change or things get passed, like the Healthy Youth Act, you need time sometimes to see if it's making a difference. So we look over the last 10 years and have to really assess and ask ourselves, was there a real difference in teen pregnancy rates since the Healthy Youth Act has been passed. And we know absolutely there was a huge difference. So we know it was effective. Across North Carolina, teen pregnancy rates have dropped by around 50% since 2010. And in our county, we've actually seen them drop even a little more at 56% in the last 10 years. So the only real difference between then and now is the fact that this education was required in all school systems and started being provided at that time in its entirety. So on the last slide, we talked about the fact that we absolutely know that the Healthy Youth Act made a difference in lowering teen pregnancy rates based on the education that they started receiving at that time. On this slide, I wanted to discuss a little bit of what are exactly the reasons why. What is it within the education that made changes within the teens' behavior that caused those teen pregnancy rates to drop? So the first one is that teens are waiting longer to begin having sex. So that age of first sexual experience is going up. So that absolutely is making an impact on the overall teen pregnancy rates. We also know that teens that have this education are much more likely to use contraceptives when they decide to do it. So they are more likely to plan ahead and either be on some type of, hormonal method, birth control pills, that sort of thing, or plan ahead with the use of condoms prior to that sexual activity, which of course will reduce that risk of pregnancy. And the last one is we know there has been an increase in teens that are using the long-acting reversible contraceptives like the implant and IUDs. When we kind of take out that day-to-day human error that can occur, especially for teenagers that are using birth control methods that they have to do every day or every week, that is going to help to reduce the overall pregnancy rates as well. So those are really the big factors regarding teen pregnancy rates, but they have also done some research that shows that students that are getting this education are also 50% more likely to get out of unhealthy relationships or end unhealthy relationships that they're in, which shows that even those discussions regarding healthy, positive relationship qualities has really making a difference in their decisions regarding these types of relationships as they go through high school. Now that we've discussed all the requirements of the Healthy Youth Act and the education that must be provided, I thought we'd talk a little bit about exactly what is the council doing in the schools of Catawba County. So for our reproductive health and safety education, we are currently teaching in Catawba County School District as well as Hickory Public Schools. There's actually 3 school districts in our area, and we are teaching in 2 of 3 of those large ones. And then we are also in a lot of the parochial or private schools in our area as well. Over the next few slides, we'll talk about exactly what we cover for each grade, because we also do puberty education as well. So as Robin discussed in the earlier part of the presentation, the council has been providing some type of education regarding these topics since the late 80s, really for teen pregnancy prevention. But we also have been providing puberty education programs as well for the majority of that time span as well. So in 5th and 6th grade is when we offer puberty education. 5th grade, we're normally with them for 2 days, 1 class period each day. 6th grade, we're with them normally for 3 days, 1 hour per day. 5th grade is same gender, puberty, just an explanation of all the changes that they're going to go through, physical, emotional, social changes. 6th grade, we discuss their gender again, but we also add the opposite gender. So males learn about females, females learn about males. We also have a good long day discussion about peer pressure and ways to resist peer pressure, how friendships might change around this time as well. Reproductive health and safety education, of course, starts in the 7th grade and goes through 9th grade. 7th and 8th grade generally is 1 hour per day for 4 days, and then 9th grade, those classes generally last 90 minutes. So we do have the longest amount of time with our 9th graders, generally about 6 hours for that program. So the programs that we provide, whether that's 5th grade or 8th grade or 9th grade, whatever it is, we really have 5 main things that we try to make sure each one has. So we want them to be integrated. So we want to make sure that there is information that they have gotten previously that is integrated again into this year. So whatever they received in 5th grade, they're going to hear that again in 6th grade. They're going to make sure that they have a thorough understanding of that information before we add more information to it. So almost a little review each year of what we learned the year before. So that's why the next part is also really important. It has to be sequential. So we want it to be year after year. We know that science shows that these students, just like adults, have to hear things sometimes over and over and over again for it to truly soak in, for them to truly understand it. So when there's so much information being thrown at them, and sometimes it's the opposite of what they're hearing from friends or on the internet, it's really important that they're hearing this medically accurate information year after year, and it's the same information, of course, correct scientific information. Age appropriate. So we know that it's important that we don't teach people things too early. So we feel like all of the information we're providing is age appropriate for the grade that it is being taught to. Medically accurate, of course, requirement of all the education that we are giving. It has to be, proven to be true. Although we think things like puberty and sex that don't change, there are definitely things that we always have to update. We have to make sure that we have the most recent stats. Each year we take time after the school year, sometimes halfway through the school year, and really look at some of our assessments that we use to whether students are learning the information we're giving. Are the PowerPoints we're using still, effective and up to date? Are the activities that we're using still current? So I think it's important to always reassess what you're doing, and also making sure that the information you're putting out there is still accurate, because especially with statistics and things like that in this area, they really can change. And then, of course, we also want to make sure that it's interactive. We want to engage the students. We want to make sure that they're learning through activity and not just from us up there spilling information, but they actually can see this stuff play out. So we have lots of activities that are fun. They can sometimes show them, a statistic just based on a game. We have one that we use dice to try to show the statistics regarding STIs versus teen pregnancies. We talk about how they'd feel if they got those. So there's so many different things that each grade we make sure that we've got a mixture of us obviously teaching, some visual stuff, videos, as well as interactive activities. We never like them to sit more than 10 to 15 minutes at the most without kind of changing up what we're doing to keep them engaged in what they're learning. How do we assess whether our programs are working? Yes, we look each year, we wait for those teen pregnancy rates to come out, and definitely use that as a gauge to whether what we're doing is actually working. But we feel like there needs to be other assessments as well on a more personal level. So we do offer pre and post tests are given to every student at the very beginning of the program, and then the same test is given at the end of the program. And we want to make sure that they are absorbing some of this information. So we see about a 50% increase in knowledge with these post tests as compared to the pre-test knowledge. So that's one area that we can always look at, kind of reassess if we need to change some of those questions, or is it the way that we're teaching teaching some of that information that maybe they're not, getting it to the point that we want them to. We also give out evaluations to each teacher's classroom that we're in. So we have them fill that out, have them have the opportunity to give us feedback about anything they think we need to address more, or any type of feedback they think would make our program better. We also encourage feedback from students. I have a few examples of that on the following slide. Just what are some things that they enjoyed about the class? What will they remember about the class? So we hope that that allows us to kind of be like, okay, those are things we should definitely keep in the program. And then we also give students more than once in the time that we're in the program, days that we're there, opportunities to ask anonymous questions. So we normally give out paper, pass around a question bowl, and this is their opportunity to write down maybe those questions they've always wanted to ask, but maybe we're too embarrassed. And of course, we want to answer them in an unbiased way. This allows us to kind of earn their respect, and they don't have to worry about, judgment, or, that feeling that if they ask that to their regular classroom teacher, maybe that teacher would make assumptions about things that they're doing, where it might just be something that they heard and they really just need the answer. So all of these things just help us to continually keep our thumb on how effective our programs are, what are the things we can do to improve our programs and make them better and more engaging for the students. We really value respect. During these programs, we know that it's important for us to respect them, and vice versa, for us to have a very inclusive learning experience. So that's really a big focus of what we try to do. And these different areas is also where we hope that we can, provide that respect and unbiased information to them. As I mentioned earlier, here are just a few things that we've gotten back off of some of the post-tests. So at the end of each program, after they take the post-test at the bottom, there's just a place where they can write something they remember about the week or something they learned about the week. Even, feedback of what's a topic maybe that we didn't discuss that you think we should have. So these are just a few that we've gotten, like I said, probably last year. And they vary greatly from, literally remembering talking about spontaneous erections in 6th grade, and that might be a change they go through during puberty, to some more serious things as we get into 9th grade about relationships and birth control and things like that. So they normally do write something down there. It's not required, but they normally do give us some feedback, which always helps us to really know which areas they might be listening to the most and what's making the biggest difference in the education they're getting. So as I mentioned a couple of slides ago, one of the things that we do to try to make sure that what we are teaching is actually being retained as far as knowledge goes is our pre and post tests. So this graph kind of shows the increase in knowledge from 2009 through 2018, and then the blue line actually represents the decrease in teen pregnancy. So you can see that red line each year that it went up, that teen pregnancy rate went down. So by kind of constantly looking at this, especially over this long of a period, a 9-year gap there, we were able to really see that as that knowledge increased, so as that education increased with each year, that those teen pregnancy rates in our county actually went the opposite direction. And we feel like this is a really good visual to really see that obviously knowledge is power, and we hope that teens are really using it to make healthy life decisions, really thinking about their futures and how some of these decisions that they're faced with can have an impact on their future goals. To end this section, I thought it might be fun to look at some real questions from students that we've had in the classroom. We get thousands of questions every year, and we try to keep these just as an opportunity for when new staff start. We sometimes go through them to get them to start thinking about, if this was asked in class, what would be the appropriate way to answer them, medically accurate, obviously using correct terms, all that good stuff. So we can look at these and see that some are opinion. So we get often people ask us, well, what do you think about this? Or what do you think is the right time for this or that? So what's the right time to have sex is a common one that we get from students. They will ask us our opinion. Obviously, that is not our role as the educator for this classroom, is not to give our opinion, but we do have that chance to at least have them think about what are some things that maybe they personally want to have in place before they start making some of these really mature decisions. So sometimes they might say they want to finish school, or they want to be married, or they want to have this or this accomplished before those mature decisions that could affect their life might be made. So if anything, it makes them or helps them to think maybe beyond the one age that it might be appropriate for them. Obviously, there's ones that are just very simple facts. Why do we go through puberty? Why is sexting illegal? Can HIV be cured? So sometimes those questions are pretty easy, and we are able to go into a little bit more detail and make sure they understand that. Some allow for opportunity for further discussion. The one about the doctor. Can a doctor tell your parents if you have had sex? We always want them to be open and honest with doctors, and we really encourage them to understand that it is confidential information, whether they're divulging they've had sex, whether they're asking for a pregnancy test, whether they're getting an STI screening, that they need to trust that doctor so that they can help them to the full degree that they need to. And then if they decide to tell their parents on their own, that's one thing, but that those doctors themselves cannot tell their parents. Sometimes it's about boundaries. So how do you talk to your partner about boundaries? So we get the chance to talk about respect in a relationship, and when's the best time, to talk about your boundaries with your partner. Maybe when you're not in the heat of the moment, but when you're just getting to know each other and really talking about your futures and those things that could get in the way of your future goals. Things like that first question regarding, are there home remedies to cure STIs? Sometimes we get, is there anything at home that you could do to see if someone has an STI? That gives, again, this great opportunity for us to discuss the internet and how sometimes there's misinformation out there on the internet, definitely sites that claim to be able to do some of these things that they ask about. We reiterate to them the trusted sites that they can go to for accurate resources. Unfortunately, as we have discussions, especially about sexual offenses, people often will divulge information about things that have happened to them, whether that's rape or sexual abuse or even other types of sexting issues, things like that. So in addition to giving them local resources, having them think about trusted adults in their life, we also, anytime there is something like that where they've said this has happened to them, we follow up minimally with the guidance counselor, make sure that she follows up with the student, she or he follows up with the student, and that it's reported and that we know that they are getting help for this. And then sometimes they're really funny, like the very last one, which is one of my all-time favorites. This was asked by a 6th grade boy a few years ago, where he asked, when does the breast milk turn to powder? So apparently he was very confused on the whole process of formula and thought that at some point that breast milk was going to become formula. that was in a bottle. So we often, don't understand that kids hear things, whether that's on the internet, whether that's in a classroom, whether that's sometimes in their own home, but they don't always get explained the whys and the hows of these things occurring. So they still have a lot of questions. So want to make sure that we answer those questions without making them feel stupid for asking them, and that it would be a logical thing to misunderstand. I hope you've enjoyed this section. Robin's going to focus the next section on some of the other programs that we are doing in our county to promote healthy youth behaviors.
Hello, this is Robin again. I'm going to talk with you about some of the other programs that our agency has and that we all participate in at some point during the year of that program. Since we are a small agency, it takes all of us a lot of times when it comes to the big parts of the program for us to be able to complete and do the things that that program needs. So we'll go ahead and get started, and you can see the other programs that we have. One of our other programs that I'd like to introduce you to is the Smart Moms and Dads program. We have anywhere from 15 to 20 participants throughout Catawba County that are either parenting moms or dads or expecting moms or dads. The purpose in this program is to prevent a sequential pregnancy in teen parents, keep teen parents in school, and give them the ability to graduate, and provide resources not just for that parent, but for the child also. Requirements are that the parent be between the ages of 14 to 19, and they must be enrolled in school or in a GED program, and they cannot have a sequential pregnancy to stay in the program. The program uses the curriculum Parents as Teachers, which means they will have 2 home visits per month for an hour each, monthly group interactions, and they will gain baby bucks by doing these things. They also can gain baby bucks by having good grades and by using a birth control method. The baby bucks enable that parent to be able to get clothes for their child, diapers for their child, toys that are age appropriate and educational for that child. It can also help them to get strollers, car seats, those things. If both parents are involved, both parents will get baby bucks for that child. So it's a great program to give support to those teens that are trying to parent. If you'll look at the pictures are of some of the group outings and then some of the parents at a home visit in the pictures. Teen Talk is another one of our TIPI funded programs. Teen Talk does small groups with at least 100 participants a year in our community in different settings. We use either Making Proud Choices curriculum or Reducing the Risk curriculum. And we meet several weeks in a row depending on the curriculum that we're using and how often we can meet with that group in the setting that they're meeting in. With this, they completely finish the curriculum. We also do a parent outing, and usually with most groups, a service project during that time or at the end of the completed group. These pictures that you see are some groups that we actually did service projects with, and also did a group outing along with their parents after they completed the program. Another program we have is the Lunch Buddy program. It is where a middle school youth is paired with an adult role model from the community. Counselors will choose students they feel that would benefit from having another adult role model in their life. These role models will eat lunch with the student once a week for the entire school year. They also will do a couple outings a year with that student. They have the ability, usually on normal school years, to maybe go to a Lenore Ryan game with that student. We also, at the very end of the year, do a crawdad game. Students, their family, and the mentor's family can join together and go to a crawdads game. We have a mid-year celebration at the school that we do dinner and games, and mentor their family, and the student and their family get to all come together and meet and have a meal together and play fun games. These students are in all of Catawba County's middle schools. We have a few that are in high school doing the Lunch Buddy program, and then we have a few in some of the elementary schools that have 6th grade in the school still. One of our other programs is Preventing Distracted Driving. It is a program that helps to prevent or bring awareness to youth in the community on all the different types of distracted driving that can cause crashes. We have in years past involved a video contest to where students would get information out to other students by producing a video. We've done contests to where they actually track their driving ability or who they choose to ride with. Last year's contest was to design a billboard, and the top 3 billboards were placed in our community to hopefully prevent distracted driving and bring awareness not to just youth but others in the community about all the different types of distracted driving. The picture below is one of the billboards that was placed in our community, and the first place winner's picture is also on the slide that you are seeing. This contest and prevention is in all 3 school systems in Catawba County through high school.
Thank you for joining our session today on promoting healthy youth behaviors in Catawba County. I hope that this session has provided you with some new information, and we encourage you guys, if you have any questions or need any further information from us, our contact information is listed here and we'd be happy to help. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.